Morning or afternoon or good evening. Anyway, hello. Um, I'm going to try to get you up to speed here on this second assignment in week one. It gets a little frustrating. Some of the directions aren't real clear and you can spend forever. But I think the important thing here is to work with these until you're comfortable with them. And they're pretty simple. As you get better with the software, you'll also understand there are different ways to tweak these, but let's just jump right in. If you'll notice, we're talking about a tool that is a nice fixed shape drawing tool. And when you click on this template right here, you should bring up a file that will open into something like this, all right? And then the instructions that you're given are to make sure that you've got the stroke and the fill, no fill, you've got a stroke specificity, and you also have a weight on your stroke. Okay, so up here, if your computer's set up like mine, is where I can do my fill right here. That's a solid block. If I hold this down, no fill would be that one. My stroke, which is the outline, is right here. If I wanted to make it blue, I could. They don't want us to do blue, they want us to do black, so there we go. And then my stroke is right here, and by changing those arrows, I can make it greater or less, but we're supposed to be at 1. All right, now if you don't have this like this, go to your window, bring up your color palette, and this guy will come up, all right? And on your color palette, you can do the fill and the stroke color here. Now, whichever one is in front of the other or overlaps the other is the one that you're going to adjust. And it's simple to change. Hit those arrows and it will change just what my values are from one to the other. I can, in other words, have the black stroke. If I hit this arrow, all of a sudden my fill is black. All right, so if I want to adjust the fill instead of the stroke, then I click on that square and it brings that overlapping the stroke, and I can choose a color for the fill if I want to. They want us to use no fill, so there we are. Now then, the window stroke palette right there is a way of bringing up a stroke palette, and you can play with the weight just like I did up there. All right, so that's the first thing you have to adjust. Then if you'll pay attention on your tool palette right here, you'll see that some of these tools have these little triangles on the corner. Now that indicates to you that when I roll over that, it says pen tool. If I click my mouse button down as I roll over, look at what else it shows me. Under that pen tool is an anchor point, a delete, a convert, all of those. I'm going to shapes because that's what we're working with. I'm going to hold my mouse button down and look at all the different shapes that are under that. You may not have had that. You probably started out with the default, which would have been this rectangle, which is strangely enough the way we're starting out. And that's an easy one to start out with. Now, just FYI, back here on the instructions, it gives you some other options, some keyboard modifiers. Now, in your readings for this week, and also in the lynda.com, there's a little information, but to my way of thinking, not really enough. But anyway, drawing shapes is where you would go for information on how to do all this. And it helps. It gives you some ideas here on those keyboard modifiers and how you would begin. And it also shows you how those little triangles bring you out to what you need to be. Okay? So I'm getting back to where we are, which is the second assignment here. And this is my template. And I'm ready to roll. So I've got this. I've got everything set up here. I'm just going to start up here, line those crosshairs up with that top left corner, and drag across. And it looks pretty good to me, right where it is. Now, just to skip on so I don't spend a lot of time taking you through things that are fairly simple, if I hit the, on the rectangle, if I hit the Shift key while I'm doing this, while I'm drawing, I should get an equidistant polygon, in this case square. And then I'm going to use my arrow keys to line it up there. It looks pretty darn close, doesn't it? I'll try to make the other one a little more difficult. And you would do the same for that, okay? Only you wouldn't hold that Shift key down. All right, I'm going over here to get the rounded rectangle. And I'm going to try the same thing. Oh my, look at how big those. All right, what's happening here is I have a greater radius on my corner than what the shape that I'm supposed to match has. Now, there are a couple of things I can do on this. One of the things they say is if you hold down, I'm going to have to deselect that first. Um, One of the things they say is if you hold down the arrow one of the arrow keys when you draw, it will change the radius. This is a little tricky. I'm going to hold the left arrow down and draw. Oh, see, it goes right to that. Well, I don't want that. All right, now I'm going to hold the right arrow down when I draw, and it goes right to that, and I don't want that either. So I'm back to this, and that's really not what I want at all. So I'm going to go back up here, deselect, come back here, and see if I can do something about that. Now, that's about the size. I'm going to come back over here. Now, what I did there was I just took that tool and just clicked on my drawing space. And it gives me the dimensions, and it also gives me this corner radius. Now, this is a little much, so what I'm going to do is just go in and change that to a 0.5. Okay. Hit OK, and that looks a little better. Let's see how close this is. I'm going to pull that in. It's still a little much, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going back, deselect, boom, go back and get the tool here, click. All right, this time I'm going to make that a 0.45. Okay, and see what happens. That looks a lot better. All right, and I was just arbitrarily pulling out different radiuses there. I didn't have any notion of where I was going to go. This, for our purposes, is going to be close enough, so I'm going to nudge this down with my arrow keys, get it closer to where I want to align it, then move it over a little bit, get those two sides, the top and the right side, and then I can go right over to that, pull that in like that, go down here, pull that in right there, okay? So that's close enough. Now I'm going over to this one, and by far, my opinion is these rounded rectangles are the hardest things to draw. So you may want to do the rest of these and come back. But anyway, on this one, I'm going to go get my rounded rectangle and draw this. And look, those corners are too big, so I don't want that. Now I'm going to hold down the left key, the left arrow key, and draw. Oh, and that's not right either, is it? All right, so let me just deselect that. Go back and see what I get. Well, no, that's not what I want at all. Hold down the right arrow, which would give me more. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. All right, holding down the right arrow as I kept my hand on the mouse got me to that. And you would play around with those curvatures or those radiuses on those angles as you go to the next one. And like I said, those are the hardest ones, I think, to do. So if you get frustrated, go to another one and then come back to that. Down here on the oval, I'll go back to the tools. Up here, the oval's pretty easy, or the ellipse. You can either by doing this or this, you can get pretty close to what those shapes are, I think. So I'll let you play with that. Nothing tricky on that. Down here on the polygon, go get your polygon tool. And I'll show you a trick. If you click on it, you see this little thing? I just clicked on my drawing board, and I'm coming up with a 5-sided polygon. Well, I want a 3-sided. So I'm going to hit that bottom arrow, and now I get to a 3-sided, and I'm going to hit OK. Well, that gives me a triangle, and that's pretty well the way I want it. Going back up here to get the arrow, I'm going to pull down a bit and get that shape extended just by hitting the corner and holding the select tool over those little open squares. I am able to drag and make that size change, which is essentially what I was doing. Now I'm just nudging it over to get it to work, and that's darn close. I'm just going to pull that up a bit. That's real close, okay? On the pentagon, what I would do is get my tool, click, and this time hit that. Can you all see this okay? Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to come in a bit on the drawing board so you might be able to see this better. I know that the video makes this a little smaller than what I'm actually doing it now. I'm hoping you can see that better. I'm going to change by hitting this arrow up at the top. I'm going to add, there would be 4, and there are 5. Okay, now I've got a pentagon, which is where I'm trying to go here. But if you'll pay attention to this, the difficulty is it's the wrong way. So if I take my mouse and hover around the corner there, see that little double arrow? Now by holding my mouse button down, I can kind of just move that around and I get a little bit to the right angle there. And now it's just a matter of playing with these until I get the size about where I want it to be. Okay, doesn't want to do it, does it? Well, it has no choice. Let's see. This is what I need to pull. There we go. Alrighty. Now you can play some with that too if you want to, but that's pretty close as far as I'm concerned. So if you turned that in, I would certainly take it. Now it's worth your time that you play with these as much as you can for two reasons. One, you're getting better with the tools, and that's a skill. Two, you're going to use this assignment in your next assignment, in assignment 3. So get these right if you can, all right? Now I'm going to go back up to this polygon or to the shape tool, get the star, and come back here. Let's see, I want to get back on track here. This is a little bit large so you can't see what I'm doing. So I'm going to hit my magnifying tool, hold down my Option key, and that will zoom out for me. Maybe I can drag that out a little bit farther, a little bit closer. All right, get my star tool up here, right? I'm going to just click and see what I get. I get eight sides, or 8 points rather. The first one, if I am correct, asks me to do 5. It's a 5-pointed star, so I would hit this arrow and come to 5, and then hit OK. And let's see how this matches up. I may have to go back and get my select. Come down here. Whoop! Little nervous mouse. Let me pull this down and maybe move it over. You know, if you hold your Shift tool down when you hit the arrow keys, it moves a little larger spaces. All right, that's pretty close. I'm not happy with it, so I'm going to drag a little here and see if I can get it a bit better. All right, pull that over a little maybe. Well, maybe as close as I can get it. Anyway, play with this until you have it about where you want it, and then you're done. Okay. I would nudge that a little bit more. I would play with these points some. There are different ways to do this, and there are some ways that you'll learn as you progress that are a little more sophisticated. For now, I think this is close enough, and I'd be happy with that if you turn that in. If you can get it better, good for you. All right, here's back to the star tool on this one, just to give you an idea. This is an 8-pointed star, so when you click on that, you're going to be sure you want to go up to 8. Then it will come up like that, and you can use these little tools to nudge it around where you want to make it bigger, to revolve it if you need to align it. So that basically is what the assignment is. Like I said, it's worth everything for you to get this right and get the skills on this. So don't mind spending a whole lot of time. If when you save this, remember to put your name on it. If when you save this, you can't get it to load up to the discussion area because it's too big, then go to doc sharing. Doc sharing is, just FYI, you probably know this, is right here. You would click right there and it will let you put in the assignment in the appropriate place. You have to put it in one of the other places so that, and most of these will come right up on the discussion area and load, but sometimes things are a little busy, you might have a slow connection, and if that's the case, go ahead and put it in doc sharing. Okay? I'll look forward to seeing your assignment, and I hope this helped you some. See you soon.